discussion tonight, we're going to touch a little bit in terms of what's happening in the world of digital transformation and how these ladies in their world, they are moving different things. And I particularly curated, I think, different types of players. You'll notice, yes, we've got 2 CIOs, we've got a CEO, and we've got a board member, because then, you know, in terms of how they navigate and how they see everything else, it really is different pair of eyes, okay? So that's the whole point. But also in the room, I want to recognize we've got CFOs in the room, we've got business women, we've got strategists, I'm looking at Shibuli, we've got turnaround specialists in the room. So we've got really different and a very rich, I think, minds and intellectual capability just around us today. So I really would like your participation as well. So maybe with a little bit of that background, I'm just going to dive into some of the discussions we've had earlier on, and as well as maybe lightly prepared questions. I think just reflecting back, the word digital transformation, big word. Digital strategy, big word. And I always say, how is it that we're driving digital strategy and we're not talking about company strategy? And surely the two are intertwined. In fact, it's a company strategy that is enabled by digital strategy or technology itself. So with that background, and we've seen a number of shifts, some of those that Charles spoke about in terms of how technology has propelled some of the growth and maybe successes in various companies, whether it's productivity, whether it's facilitation of communication, supporting of decision-making like data analytics, getting a little bit more data and informed data in decision-making, as well as improving, well, the quality of life that we spoke about. Andronica, I'm going to pick on you first, wearing your CEO hat. I mean, you are right in the middle of driving a strategy, I guess, growth, operational efficiencies for your company, as well as customer satisfaction, I guess. Now, the question is, how has technology enabled that strategy, and what are then some of those benefits that you are seeing in your space?
Good evening, ladies and a few gents in the room. It's so good really to be here in the presence of such brilliance, and thank you, Thuto, for inviting me. Those of you who know BDO, you know, I come from a company that has been in operation for 97 years, which means we have to continuously reinvent the way we do business to enjoy this longevity. And as part of that reinvention, in 2018, we adopted a system that we curated as a BDO business system, and the system is based on the Japanese Kaizen philosophy of continuous improvement. And that system has become the backbone of how we develop or deploy strategy. As you said, there's nothing like digital strategy and business strategy. And we know that a number of companies who went on a path of digital strategy experienced failure along the way because it wasn't integrated with business. And what we have done, leveraging on this PBS, which really promotes continuous improvement and respect for people, in that those who are at the forefront of execution have a voice to share what innovation we should be adopting, or the weaknesses that they're encountering, the challenges that they're encountering, to be turned around into an opportunity for growth. And some of the projects that we have rolled out, leveraging on this BBS tool, are around improving our market coverage. You know, we operate in 11 Southern African countries, and I'm sure one of you driving around, even in the city, rural areas, you came across that big yellow truck with a cat logo. So you can imagine if I have to go employ people to trace this truck and make sure that it's up and running, you know, the cost to serve is going to be high.
Sure.
In that classic, you know, crocodile style, you want to lower your cost and increase your revenue. So just to share some few examples on how we leveraged on technology to improve coverage. Believe it or not, we sell a ganda online. And that has really helped us to improve the rate of sale without increasing the cost. And the second element, because our business, you know, we've got the prime equipment sales business and aftermarket. On the aftermarket side, you know, a customer would experience failure, and some of them are in the remote areas like farmers and so on, far from our operating regional hubs. So driving 200 kilometers to get to a regional hub, queue over the counter, get a part and go back. You know, it's a lot of waste.
Sure.
And we have launched an e-commerce platform similar to Take a Lot, where these customers can go online, order their parts, they get delivered at their doorstep. And today, the latest range of equipment is, you know, produced with a lot of telematic technology in it. And that has really helped us to be more proactive in targeting customers where we know that we've got the highest probability to convert that opportunity into a sale. The data will give us insights such as, you know, when is the next replacement cycle? You know, that equipment have got an end life. And at the end of the life, you either replace it with new or you rebuild. Now, if you go on the rebuild option, you know, it helps us as well to make sure that, especially in this environment where there is supply chain disruptions due to geopolitical tensions, you know, predicting the failure and making sure that, you know, your inventory, you holding the right inventory, because we're all about value creation, right?
Yeah.
No one wants a warehouse that will sit with inventory, to the finance people in the room, where you end up having slops, what we call slow-moving stock. We even developed a slang language for it. So it's embracing the transformation, but linking it to strategy. That is enabling us, you know, to deliver the value that we want to deliver. And today, most of the CEOs I talk to, they're all concerned about the cost to serve because of inflationary pressures. And with technology as an enabler to a strategy, we definitely can accelerate that value creation process.
Sure. Okay, so I took for myself, you spoke cost to serve, certainly I think across all industries, including our own. Critical, how can we use technology there? You spoke about then the operational efficiencies, predictive from maintenance and also replacements, powerful. What was the other one that you spoke of? Slops. Absolutely, being able not to have your money locked into your absolutely into inventory, therefore you make your money work better for you, because liquidity is king. I mean, I'm sure the CFOs in the room can appreciate that. The more liquid you are, the better indeed that you are. But all of those, we're always then to say, how do we unlock obviously those front areas? Maybe I'll divert to you as well, Faith. You know, we've now heard from Andronica in the front, CEO driving that particular strategy and saying, I need then the enablers to help me to unlock all of that value. Maybe you can just take us into your space of how, as then a technologist, you actually complement the leadership in front.
So good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me. I'm feeling honored to be in the presence of these panelists, and even more honored to be amongst all of you. With regard to digital transformation, I've actually renamed it in our organization as digital business transitioning, because it's about the business. And so the starting point for us was to have a look at all our divisions. So we generate, transmit, distribute power. And so to look at all our divisions and our subsidiaries and look at what their strategic objectives are. So and then when looking at the strategic objectives in each one of those, look at what the challenges are that they're going through. So for example, municipal debt. Look at all the challenges that we're going through, or that they're going through within the divisions, and then opportunities. What opportunities are they seeing? Microgrids, electric vehicles. So what are the opportunities that they're seeing? And then, only then, do we start thinking about what's the digital proposition that supports that. And in that process, what we did is we came up with use cases. We have some really intelligent people, and we like to prove our intelligence, and so we have like 155 use cases. But those use cases, what we did is we actually we classified them into 6 focus areas. As you know, in our industry, you as the customer, that interaction between you and us has changed. It used to be passive. We give you an invoice, you use our electricity, we provide the electricity, you use it, we give you an invoice, or you pay for it before and use it, and that's it. We're moving away from that. We're moving to interaction between the customer and ourselves. So we call it demand side management. So we are balancing the demand and the supply. What that translates to is many use cases of how we can enable that. So we classified those. We classified it in terms of our, I've got 6 focus areas, and I'm not going to go into all of those, but I do want to say that in those areas, we've also taken those use cases, and we have drawn the link back to what our core strategic objectives are as an organization. So, for example, modernizing the power system, so microgrids, etc. Another objective is creating a competitive environment for the industry, because we've got the IPPs in the industry now. So what that translates to, we need to ensure that there's tools that enables us, and so on. And so for all of those, we've got use cases. Those use cases we've classified, and we've actually prioritize those into our asset performance management and into employee experience, because we've seen and proven over the last 15 months that you get things done through your employees. And so we need to engage our employees more using digital tools, because many of our employees are at the power stations. And for example, if you're working at Kuberg, you can't take in your PC, you can't take in your phone, you go through some intensive scanning before, for radiation, etc., as you move in and out. So it's important that we then think creatively around how we digitize, but how we digitally transform our business. It must make sense for the business. It must serve your business outcomes. There's a lot of other stuff we do, but let's stop there.
No, thanks for that. And I like the human element that you're also bringing. Andronica did touch on it. And I think it's often an area that gets forgotten, to then say all of these technologies and these strategies get moved by people. So how do we take then the people with in transforming, but not only transforming, but enabling our strategies, I think, within organizations. I'll pivot a little bit and maybe talk about challenges. Of late, any of you, if you maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when you turned the news, there was a CrowdStrike. We told CrowdStrike incident, which, as I'm reading, I'm told that it actually did cost about 10 billion in terms of then the losses across the globe, approximately, that particular incident. So it is not an incident we can forget, right? And Kholeka, I just want to maybe just pick on then the challenges. I mean, technology, digital, great. It adds a lot of value, and we're saying it is shifting, obviously, organizational strategies. But what are then the challenges and the burdens that it comes with from your pair of eyes? And I want to make it a little bit personal later on, but okay, let's hear it.
Good evening, ladies, and a few gentlemen that are around. I'm so privileged to be sitting here in front of you. It is such a great honor, to really be in front of such a wonderful, beautiful ladies. So I think you kind of, you touched on the CrowdStrike incident. CrowdStrike is a cybersecurity organization, which obviously, they want to try and make sure that whatever that you do in organization, from a firmware, literally at the core of your technology, you are protected. And you could imagine, what it actually, the damage it caused, because flights were stopped. It created so much havoc. And the challenges we know that, as much as today we live with technology, but it does bring a whole host of challenges. And those are not only limited to, cybersecurity. It's also including, the safety elements to it. You kind of realize that businesses can no longer function without technology. It then tells we need to ask ourselves a question. What do you literally have from a business continuity perspective? If you then have technology, what other processes do we actually need to put in place to still say, yes, we have technology, but what are other things that I need to make sure that my business can still continue? I think gone are the days where you're thinking, if I don't have a technology, that's fine, we can revert to paper. So we want to know how many of you can revert to paper today? It is not possible. So it is more about how then do you ensure with the technology that you have business continuity, processes in place for your businesses.
So resilience is critical. I just want to pick, we did say that this is a ladies' evening. So, I mean, you both play in this ICT space, and we see very few women, by the way, as CIOs. Any maybe personal challenges that you've encountered just as a woman leader, CIO, in the space?
Definitely. I think there is quite a bit of, gender biases and stereotypes. Often people think that as a woman, you are not technically, savvy. And they get a bit of a shock, when they realize that you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about. I will maybe try and personalize it, and I can do it because this is, public knowledge. DBSA was breached last year from a cyber incident perspective. So we're actually a cyber victim. And I think that's how we actually look at it, saying there's no one who sit out there and saying, I am ready for a cyber breach. And this incident happened on a Saturday evening. But none of us were actually even aware of it. And this, by the way, happened through an employee. Where they're saying, you've got a prize to win, click. As much as you can do cyber awareness, there is someone who would really want to win that prize that they know they've never entered a competition. And obviously on Sunday, and I'm very grateful that I actually had, a bunch of a team that were really aware of our own environment. So they were running jobs, and Sunday they suddenly realized, why are these jobs not completing? We're not getting any feedback on this. By 12 o'clock, which was on a Sunday, and I go to church, and I switch off my phone, when I go to church. After church, I realized, why have I got so many people trying to contact me. So I scan through the phone. It says, I'm going to actually speak to someone who I know. They will not come with too much emotions. And by the way, men do have emotion on their sleeves as well. Don't be fooled. So I scan through the list and saying, who do I need to talk to understand what exactly is happening, because I never really get calls on a Sunday. I called one of the guys and he says, no, we have been breached. He says, what do you mean? How do you know? We actually have gotten a ransomware on our environment. Okay, how did it happen? But we do have a security operations center, which is outsourced. Did they actually know about this? No. And then you realize that, you suddenly had to get into a space and saying, how do I get the team together? And the only thing that we could do was to say, we all have to be on-prem to be able to understand what this challenge is. And when we got into the office, it was 4:00. I remember vividly what actually happened. 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And guess what? Because I was wearing my church garb, I had forgotten to change. I rock up at work in my church garb. I had to ask my husband, please bring me clothes to change, because I knew it was going to be a very long night. And I think, the reason why I'm sharing this is that you then realize that men out there think that you actually can't hold it together and ask tough technical questions to enable us to be able to make a decision to say, what is it that now we need to do for the organization? And I can bet you by 6:00, 2 hours later, we knew it definitely was breached. How were we breached? We didn't know, but we then had to act. I had to actually make that call to say, we are closing completely, isolating DBSA from traffic, meaning we're not getting internet coming in or out, so that we then know how we deal with this person. And what was amazing, people thought when you say that you are blocking traffic in and out, they were literally wanting to see a physical person being blocked. And with that, you actually realize that, if you were not, if I wasn't technically strong, it wasn't going to be easy for me to then say, this is what we needed to do. And we had to immediately activate business continuity. And the greatest thing was, within 24 hours, DBSA business was up and running. And that's why I'm saying it is very important. Thank you. It is very important that, yes, as much as we rely on technology, we need to find ways in making sure that the business still continues. So my CEO was very proud that we actually were running the business. And as Thuto was saying, from where we sit, you could imagine the kind of loans or disbursements that we do. We miss a day, it means we actually have impacted the development of the country.
Jeebus, I thought it was doctors with those problems only. But yeah, clearly.
Thuto, if I may add
yes,
to the
please.
question around challenges, just from a broader business context,
Sure.
right? Today, there are a lot of innovative technologies that when you look at your business strategy, you say, this could solve my problem. But, transformation is about changing that which you know to something that you think could work. Now, as a leader, it's very, very important that you go into the battlefield with your team to explain the reason for this change, the why. Otherwise, it's going to fail. And the why should be about what is in it for the broader stakeholders.
Okay, so we need to be in the front row of the battlefield. Okay, I'll definitely take that. Annamarie, I want to divert a little bit to you. We spoke about the challenges, and earlier on we spoke maybe from a strategic perspective, the opportunities, but I want to really then still divert to the opportunities at a maybe board level and that governance level. You see a lot of strategies, you speak to a lot of C-suite people, but then you sit as, part of that monitoring group of, is this strategy really moving forward or is it stagnant? And maybe you can give us your lens around, the opportunities that you perhaps do see with technology, and if it has enabled or given more women, a little bit more leverage? I don't know what you see.
Yeah, good evening to everyone, and I echo my colleagues and esteemed ladies with me here. I'm feeling very humbled. I was driving here thinking, I wonder why I'm on this panel, because it's technology, it's digital transformation. I'm probably going to be the go-go in the room, you know, number one. Number two, I'm a lawyer, you know, and a governance professional. So, you know, what can I, but it's, so it was so interesting to listen to all of you as well. And I, just before I sort of respond to your question, I want to say what Charles said about irresponsible use of technology, you know, the moral element to it, the ethics to it, you know. We can have a whole philosophical debate about that. But I think if I put my board hat on for a second, and then I'll probably revert a little bit to the governance part. I was for long-standing member of the King Committee, so very involved in writing the King reports. And I remember on King 4, we particularly said, let's stop talking about IT. It's technology and it's information, because both of those are key drivers of our businesses in, you know, in their own right, and then as a combination. How do we empower boards to understand that? And because ultimately, as a board member, you don't know what you don't know. Number one. Number two, you're not a specialist. So, you know, you have to really rely. And in a person who has to also try and find board members, let me tell you, to get digital expertise on boards and get is really, really difficult. And I'm not even talking about gender now, just to get somebody, you know, who's prepared to serve on a board, who understands the role of the board, who doesn't want to become operationally involved and frustrate the CIO, you know, because they've got all these great ideas. So it's, but at the same time, there's lots of moving parts. And as a board member, I have to, you know, look at business with all of these different dynamics that could impact, one of which is technology. But concept that originated from South Africa, also from a governance perspective, is integrated thinking. And integrated thinking is about what we've been talking about as well, not to operate in silos, not to have your technology, but so all your other key drivers of your business need to be part and parcel of your strategy. I was talking to a group, a board today in Magalies of a co-op, used to be a co-op, and I was talking to them about how I often see these presentations on strategy, and it's like 50 slides on, you know, the financial strategy, and then here's the last slide of, oh, by the way, we will also create a bit of value for these stakeholders, and we're also going to do, like, it has to be part and parcel of your DNA. You know, what are going to enable your business? And so as board members as well, I mean, I think we live in fear for that call, you know, that day when that's going to come, because it's not if it's going to happen, it's just when it's going to happen. And as a non-technical person, as a lawyer, understanding the legal implications of when I drop the ball, you know, it makes me even have less sleep than maybe some of my other colleagues around the table. So I think what we really need and need to embrace is understanding this is part and parcel of business for the future. What does the future workplace look like? I think I was just, you know, when you said that, that is what a board should start talking about as well. What does the future work? How do we upskill our employees to be able, I really honestly don't think we're there, you know, from what I see, but we boards are not yet at that level. So we're going to need a lot of development. We're going to need a lot of education for boards and in the curriculum of, you know, the MBAs, etc., that kind of, you know, business schools on how to embrace this. But because it absolutely brings opportunities, but it absolutely brings risks. And it's that finding that balance for me as a board member who has a lot of things to worry about. only attend 4 board meetings, but in between, have all of the other responsibilities. This is such a key driver, such a key topic to be on my radar screen. And we need the digital expertise in the boardroom. And as I say, I think that's where we have a major problem.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm also a board member on a different board, and Annamarie. But your thinking around the skills is so important, because one of the things that we're doing as part of the digital business transitioning is we understood that we were looking at the process, right? How to get there, the use cases, what a strategic objective, it's servicing, etc. But then we had to take a minute and say, wait a minute, this is not just about process, this affects people. Now let's talk about people. You need the right digital skills and mindsets, not just on boards. So you need the right digital skills and mindsets in your organization. And even if you are in technology, in the IT shop, you still need the right digital skills and mindsets. And so what we did was we looked at a framework where we are saying our organization should have these digital skills across the board. Then our organization should have these digital technology skills. We talked about prompting, right? These digital technology skills. And then in the middle is our organization needs to have these digital mindsets. Now let's talk about that. We all love, you spoke about it, we love to be in silos. I don't care which organization you're from. We love to be in silos. For right digital thinking, we can't think in silos. We love to be performance-driven, and that's great. But part of the performance-driven culture is that when someone makes a mistake, it's almost the end of their career. The right digital mindset says, I fail fast, I fail forward. And the right digital mindset also says that gone are the days where I go into the back room and do a whole waterfall approach. I get your requirements, I make you sign in blood. Then I go into a dark room there at the back. I disappear for 2 years. Your world's moved on, and I come out after the 2 years and say to you, remember before COVID you wanted this, here it is now. Gone are those days. Where we are with right digital skill, the right digital thinking and mindsets is that good enough is good enough. So minimum viable products, and I will build on it. But I'm not going to give you 1 million pieces of functionality right now. Let me give you the base. Let me give you the minimum viable product. And let's continuously, Kaizen, let's continuously implement and iterate and improve. Thanks for letting me talk.
Oh, wow, sure. Gee, okay. We've got maybe the second installment about these conversations, particularly on the human aspects of it, and then the mindset of it, and also then bringing this unemployment rate that we talk about with young people and empowering women. So there's lots to unpack, and I think we've got a long year to go. Then just coming back, maybe, to some of then why we said we want to be here as women, and we want to continue to maybe share experiences on the issue of diversity and inclusion. And I'm looking at you, Andronica, because your company has been hailed as one of those, I would say, inclusive culture and company. How has that impacted maybe their technology aspects, or if it has any bearing at all? In the way that you experience diversity and inclusion with technology and innovation in place, if it has any bearing?
No, thanks for that question. Diversity and inclusion is one thing. We've moved to Thuto. We're now talking about belonging.
Right.
But on a serious note, it's all about the culture. as my fellow colleague highlighted earlier on, that sometimes just because you are a woman, people tend to second guess you. And where I come from, we believe in creating that enabling environment. One, that is diverse, inclusive, but where people feel they belong. Because it is through belonging that you can bring your true self to work. I don't expect my women colleagues, when they leave home, they wear a mask to be somebody else.
Sure.
Just to fit in an environment, right? For us to be successful, we believe in authenticity. And I'm going to share a small example or experience. I've been with World for 10 years now. When I started, I was at corporate office. In a group structure, corporate office is for people who have had the experience, gray hair, and the culture is completely different. I walked into this building, I came from a professional service firm into this organization where it was still 4 walls, closed offices, and so on. And most of those corporate execs were in their mid-50s, right? And one thing, they would come to work very early. Yes, they would come to work very early. And there I was, as a young parent with a 6-year-old, it was really impossible to meet their expectations to an extent that I would, and not even the expectations, because they didn't tell me that is the expectation. It was what I was observing. I would go to an extent of tiptoeing to my office if I'm, a little bit late. And I guess over the years, that culture changed to say, for us to be innovative, we must bring our true self to work. And in the context of digital, I don't see gender, race when I decide to hire. I see talent. And with that, I create space for that talent's voice to be heard. And once they have a platform and you unleash them, miracles do happen. And yes, as you create opportunities for women in the male-dominated space, you are bound to have people who are not certain whether it's the right decision or not, right? And I always say, strive not to be the only one, because if you are the only one, you have to work extra hard to convince others that we are all capable. So my purpose has been to bring many, because they say if we multiply, the power of that multiplication is amazing, and that's what then drives the change, and the movement starts forming that women are capable and they can lead some of these digital projects that are seen as, the cream of the projects in an organization.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I definitely have to agree with Andronica on that one. And I think maybe just to add on what you are kind of saying is also, I think people often, when they think of diversity, it's about the race, right? But we also need to start challenging ourselves around diversity of thought. Because I think that is more powerful, that yes, as women, we have to lift as we rise, but we shouldn't only just lift people who can only talk our language. You should be able to hear from a different perspective and embrace it. So I think for me, that what creates, richness from an open-mindedness, as we lead in this technological world. So yeah.
It's really around the diversity of thought. And I was saying today as well, again, let me put my board hat on. Why do we meet as a board? We can take all the decisions by written resolution. So what's the purpose of coming together in a room? I prepare for a meeting, I form an opinion on a proposal, I'm going one way or the other. I sit in the room, chairman opens the discussion, now I'm sitting listening to my colleagues, and like all of a sudden, oh, yeah, I didn't thought about it that way. Maybe I should have gone. And in that, I changed my mind. That's why part of the King Report recommendation is about diversity in the boardroom. It's not about, you know, anything else but the value that diverse thought, preventing group thought brings to the organization. If we can just all trust one another as well, that we're on the same team, which doesn't always happen. But, you know, that discussion, and then also when you build your board, not only do you want that diversity of thought, but then you ask yourself as well, what skills? What skills do I need in the board, and what can I get in from a consultant to come and talk to me about certain things as well? So, you know, we have 8, 10, 12 people on the board that has that oversight responsibility and having to help steer the ship. It takes, that's why I always say, an effective board is not an informal process. It really needs thought on what are the skills. And then last point on that, I do believe we have looked too much at CVs and too little at the softer EQ and people skills. And that's causing a lot of unfortunate, and may I sound a little bit discriminatory to say, especially if you then have a high level of testosterone in the room. If, you know, us female do bring quite a good, you know, element and dynamic into the, but yeah, it's really that diversity of thought. It's not about anything but bringing different people together so that together we get to the best decision in the interest of our organizations.
Sure. Guys, we can carry on for a very long time. I'm cognizant of time, and I'm going to try and wrap it up. And maybe before I wrap it up, I don't know if there's anybody with a burning contribution that they want to make to this conversation at all. Looking around the room. Thank you. That would be Standard Bank.
Good evening, ladies. I'm Bulelwa Tejana from Standard Bank in the Global Markets Division. I've got a question for Andronica, actually. I wear 2 hats in my organization, and so I just want to hone in on your last point around cognitive diversity. You in an environment that is male-dominated, I'm in a similar environment, so people love to think that banking is very transformed. Maybe the retail side of banking is transformed, not the corporate side of banking is transformed, especially the market side. Trading is very male-dominated. So what I'd like to understand is, how have you done it in your organization? Because in your organization, I'm sure that's how it is, that it is perceived that men know and they can actually withstand the pressure that is in that environment more than females can. And so we're grappling with this currently in our trading environment, where females just don't feel that they belong because it is so male-dominated. The people feel they don't need to be themselves, and it is something that we try and drive every day with the other hats that I wear in the organization.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bulelo, for that question. I can relate to what you're saying. In the early 2000s, I worked for a merchant bank, which I won't mention. And, you know, just coming to the essence of your question, as women, aspiring leaders moving into what is deemed to be a male-dominated environment, how do we create that environment where there's belonging, or if there isn't, there's also coping mechanism, you know, as you change the culture. And I always say it starts with the leadership. The leadership has to be intentional about diversity and inclusion, understanding the benefits that it brings, which was shared earlier on, around diversity of thoughts. And there's a lot of research that has been published around the benefits of diversity. Now, I would say, and a leader doesn't have to be somebody in a position. We have to be leaders, whether we hold the title or not, to drive that culture that says we all here, we belong. However, I always say to my mentees, the way to change the narrative and the stereotypes is that when you are given that opportunity to be at the table, you bring your all. You make sure that you continuously sharpen your skills more than your male counterparts. You really make sure that you know your story and people can see, the benefit that you bring to the table. And through that, you'll start earning respect. I joined BDO Equipment when I moved from corporate in 2016 as the first female FD for the division, right? And I was the third female on Eskom, with the one lady looking after HR and the other one looking after IT. We were in the support function. And I remember my first exco when I had to present my financial results. BDO Equipment is one of the very few companies that I've come across in my 30 years working career that still follows standard costing, and on top of that there's hedge accounting, things that you just learned at school, right? And you never got to apply practically. And I had to invest in understanding the environment, and that really helped me because that first exco, there were two gentlemen in the meeting, my fellow exco members, who, when I started presenting the result, they started focusing on this complexity around how, the system of standard costing and hedging is influencing our performance. And the good thing is I was prepared. They ask one question, I respond. They ask one question, I respond. And until I got to a point where I said, I've run out of time. I'll just take questions. I'll take the report as read. And I then got to know that those two started their career in finance. And 20 years ago, when we rolled out the system, they designed the system. So they knew exactly the answers to the question.
Sure.
But I was on a test. But I must say, because I was prepared, that test earned me their respect. So let's always be prepared. And you cannot be over prepared. That's one message. And the other one is, wherever you are, drive that change yourself, whether you're a leader or not. Create platforms for young voices up and coming to be heard and demonstrate their talent. Thanks.
I think my marketing team is going to kill me because they are giving me eyes of, you have really ran over now, okay? So we'll have networking opportunities and share some of these ideas as we have, as I said, we will be serving dinner. And then maybe I'll take this opportunity, one, as my panelists close with just their literally 1 minute closing thought, starting maybe with you, Charles. I'll then give Kobe, who's one of our senior partners in the firm, to also then do the closing and thank yous so that we can have dinner and people can, those that need to leave, they can leave as and when they wish. So maybe just a quick closing remarks from everybody, and then Kobe, you can start coming up as well.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's so wonderful to connect with all of you. I'm going to be here for the rest of the evening, and I hope that we can have some interesting conversations. Thank you.
Oh, I will go. Yes, same here. I will stick around, but I think maybe the one word that I could leave with everyone is that make sure that you empower yourself in whatever that you do.
For me, change and innovation is part of our lives. And I want to leave you with the words of the renowned late Professor Clayton Christensen, who says, those who fear innovation on the basis of self-disruption. They must consider what will happen if the disruption is coming from outside. So at least disrupt yourself, because you can do it in a controlled environment. Thanks.
Like it.
I wanted to say one thing, now I'm going to say something else because, because you referred to Professor Clayton Christensen, and I just love his book. I'm always tell people about books. I'm known for that. How will you measure your life? And if there's one thing that I can leave you with, it's the encouragement. Buy yourself the book, How Will You Measure Your Life, from Professor Clayton Christensen. And with that, I will say thank you, ladies.
Wow.
So for me, I guess I would just leave you with, it was interesting how our stories are very similar. You get tested all the time and all that. But show up. Show up every day. Show up for yourself. Show up for the business. Show up for your family and your stakeholders, and show up for the person who's coming behind you. And I heard this a while ago, and it's like one of my mantras. It's the best gift I can give you is a healthy me. The best gift you can give me is a healthy you. So show up and show up healthy.
Okay, very nice. Thank you very much, ladies. This was very insightful. I wish we had lots more time, but hey, yeah, time is really a bit of a scarce commodity these days. So I would like to then just give an opportunity to Gobi. Gobi is a senior partner in risk advisory services here at BDO, to then do the thank yous and close their evening. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to start my thank you with a story, and I'm standing behind the ladies. As I told my boy earlier the year, he did debates. And you know, the kids are always talking about food and money for food and all of that, and we spoke about AI. And we started the speech with 40 years ago, so I was 5. There was this movie, The Terminator. It was the scariest robot with red eyes, and Skynet took over the world. Cyber attacks, right? So it was Cybernet, Skynet, and no one embraced it. And there was this woman, Sarah Connor, the mother of the savior of the world then, that came to the fore, and it was a woman. I must repeat that. Then we spoke about the blue pill and the red pill. I don't know who watched The Matrix. And the power of AI in our daily lives in the early 2000s. So I'm a movie fanatic, I can't help. But I want to start the thank you by the provocative thoughts, Charles, to use Copilot, our own Skynet, I would assume, that has already taken over, and not taken over in a harsh or nasty way, but helping us to be better. And hence our mantra is always people helping people to achieve their dreams. But now we have Copilot also. So Copilot will set us in the chair and we can run. So I think I had this whole speech prepared. But I want to say thank you, Faith, Annamarie, and Kholeka, for everything that you have said to us this evening. Charles, the initiatives between BDO and Microsoft can only take us forward. And we're immensely proud to journey with you and to journey as a collective. And we are humbled by that. We are humbled by chief information officers, chief executive officers, executive board members being on the stage, being in the crowd, that can teach us about what we need to do to harness the power of a woman, of a female. All men come from women. There's some participation, but ultimately we are raised by mothers. We are kept on our roads by our mothers. Our fathers in the older ages were the worker bees. We are the worker bees now. But it hasn't taken away your function as a mother, your function as a caretaker. So I want to appreciate each and every one of you on behalf of the firm, but also on behalf of everyone in the room, teaching us about how to accept AI, my Skynet, how not to be fearful of the workplace, adding your value, adding your voice. And I am quite a fan of Indra Nooyi. And she has a quote where she does say, and I'm going to put some own South African words in it, but women helping women through mentoring, through coaching, through giving tips, creates a tribe. She didn't use tribe, but I mean, creates an us and a power amongst us. Let's harness that. Let's lead forward. So thank you to everyone that came to participate in our Lead Forward event. Let's be women that lead forward and embracing everyone on the journey. Together we can be better. On Saturday, all of our blood will be green again, with the men participating, showing us what we as a unity can do. But thank you. Thank you for the learnings. Thank you, and enjoy the evening. There will be refreshments. I think Thuto also said that. They did give me 45 minutes to say thank you, so I'm only getting started. But yeah, enjoy the evening. Please travel safe. We hope to see you again in the future. I heard the year is still long, Thuto, so we'll have a couple of sessions where we can really integrate and connect. Thank you.
Still for your panel.
Oh, no. We've got some gifts for our panel members, but I don't know where they are now.
Okay.
We will hand them out. But I do appreciate every moment.
Thank you. Thank you, Govi. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know you need